Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's okay. Thanks for joining me. 2 days before Christmas, so that means one of three things, I think. Either you're so on top of all your Christmas planning and preparations that you've got plenty of time to waste an hour or so with me. You are alone this Christmas and you thought, right, well, I'll see what Harry's got to say. Or it's been an interesting week, and it has been an interesting week. And to be fair, although I did say last week I was going to go live, I ummed and ahed about it, but since the FOMC announcement and the reaction the markets have had across the board, whether this was a well-needed, long overdue correction or not, we have seen a sharp drop-off. Matter of fact, only 6 days ago, because it wasn't a full week, when I was live, it was 107,000 per Bitcoin, and we're just under 93 at the moment. So we definitely have had a relatively decent pullback, and given we haven't really seen a pullback since October, this one I think has maybe felt a little bit harder than we would have liked. And what's worse, it's altcoins, because although we're doing all right with altcoins today, and we'll go into whether or not that's going to be sustainable, they rallied really hard over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of those gains have been wiped out over a matter of days. So we're certainly feeling a little bit of the pinch in the altcoin market as well. That all being said, thanks everyone for joining. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please put them in and I'll get through those as we go. I don't really have any major news announcements. I found a couple of articles that we perhaps want to keep an eye on. So that shouldn't take too long. I've had some questions that have been asked. I'm going to try and tackle those to start off with, just because I really want to just get into dealing with Bitcoin's price, the market's price, where things are going, and whether or not we're actually going to see a happy Christmas and potentially a Santa rally later on, or are we going to see further falling? So without any further ado, let's just jump straight in. Yep, here are the charts. Bitcoin near, you can't see because I'm in the way of it. Total market cap and bit tensor. And you can kind of see with Bitcoin, I'm going to blow it up because it's on the 3-day. What we've kind of got here is a sort of a pullback down to this, I don't know, where the start of that move up, almost like a shoulder, has happened. So that's sort of like 92 level, which we have actually, last week we flash crashed down to that level anyway. So we're just sort of back in at, sorry, it was a couple of weeks ago, back in at levels that we have previously seen. But, all things considered, we're still at 93,000, okay? And I think we've got to kind of remember that, because beginning of November, some 6 weeks ago, we were at 67,000. And so, okay, it has been a 15 grand fall, and I'll work out the percentage when we go into Bitcoin a little bit later on. But on the grand scheme of things, we're still falling pretty high. We have, unfortunately, had that pullback. What I would say on the short term, let's go on to the daily, just something to keep an eye on, and we'll investigate a little bit further. This is similar to the S&P, but I don't know where to draw this. Probably that's better. So after the announcement on Wednesday, this candle here, this was Wednesday, the announcement candle. Thursday markets obviously open up to it, and we've seen that sort of fall away. And then that was that flash crash down that we saw on Friday, which was recovered quite well. Looked like a lovely low test, but unfortunately not. But you can kind of see that trend line that we have lost at the moment. We did try to recover it, but actually just koboed off that. And so that's really, once we go into this a little bit later on, our next major hurdle to get over where we've fallen and what we need to do. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. I won't bother looking into near. Let's have a look at total 3. Again, incredibly sharp pull up there, but just above 900 billion at the moment. And as I say, beginning of November, we were under 600 billion. So, we've still managed to keep some gains. And actually, we've only lost, only, these numbers just roll off the tongue, don't they? 200 billion with this fall away. So I don't think actually total 3 is doing too bad. And when we go to look at Bitcoin dominance, that is kind of reflecting, excuse me, on where we are on that. But we're going to cover dominance later. And I want to just get into a bit tensor. So that's one for us has fallen and has felt hardest, I suppose. And I posted this in Discord, and this is the linear. So, bear that in mind. I do a lot of my charting on the log, but this is in linear. But just look at this. This is a Gandalf line if ever I've seen it. It's a near 2-year support line, land resistance. But we've had such strong interactions from it. And actually, until today, this candle was actually, earlier on today, this candle was right on the line. I was going to be talking about, this is a do not pass moment. We really need to see BitTensor be able to hold this line. We are seeing a positive reaction out of it so far today. But if I told you that 24 hours ago we were at this price anyway, it's just been ranging for the last 3 days or so. So what I need to see is a sharp move away from this line. But more importantly, we close below this line, and it does have to be a close below. Then we're going to have to ask some questions about where our next level is going to be. And I have to say that sort of like 400 to 350 that we talked about in last week's call is certainly on the cards for that. We're going to go into BitTensor a little bit more detail later on. So just a couple of the news things. So we talked about MicroStrategy last week. Today was the day they actually did debut on the NASDAQ, and it went pretty much as I expected. It's down 8%, and it's continued to fall much like the rest of the market has. Potentially a sell the rumor, buy the rumor, sell the news event, whatever. But there we are with MicroStrategy. Talk about this because I've been talking about wanting to, potentially look into this with the SIPs. I've not done anything at the moment with it. The SIPs is just all sat in cash. To be honest with you, given with Christmas, I think I'm probably going to wait till the new year and try and understand where that's going. But it did debut today, so something to look forward to. This one it's more of a rumor at the moment, so this is definitely something to keep your eye on. I know that Simon talked about presidential pardons at the beginning of his trading pub last Thursday, but rumors are definitely circulating at the moment that actually one of the people on Biden's pardon list is, of course, our best friend Sam Bankman-Fried, who only a few months ago was sentenced to 25 years in prison. It should have been a hell of a lot longer. And so the fact that maybe after only 6-7 months of jail time, appreciate he was kept in prison or jail or whatever, pre-trial, he may be pardoned, or he may have his term commuted or reduced or whatever the terms are. It is a rumor right now, but you've then got the likes of Elon Musk sort of like waging in, going to be shocked if this doesn't happen. And it kind of does make number sense. You've got to remember that Sam Bankman-Fried back in 2020 was the Democratic second highest donor. So I'm sure he's got a lot of favors in his back pocket. I mean, we've got the bankruptcy stuff to be dealt with next year and all of that. And whilst this be a massive injustice to all of those that, hugely lost out personally within cryptocurrency back in 2022, nothing really surprised me anymore. So I think this is something we do need to have a look on. I will say that going on to Polybets, it was at like 5% chance he'll be pardoned. Now it's about 16. So maybe the general public aren't really feeling it so much. But again, we can even just track how Polymarkets views this over the next couple of weeks leading up to whenever he can stop doing his pardons, which I assume he can do all the way up to, January 20. And then the other one, which is something we talked about a couple of months ago, because this isn't a new announcement, but Tether is getting delisted from a lot of exchanges, including Coinbase, in the EU. Now, whether you like Brexit or not, that's not now going to affect us because we're no longer part of the EU. But the EU brought in their MiCA regulatory rules, and part of that was about the compliance of stable coins and certain, box ticking exercises that they need to do. And it seems that Tether, with only 8 days to go, has not really complied with those. And so major exchanges are looking to delist Tether, which you could argue is really the biggest market for cryptocurrency. Probably not, but Tether itself is the greatest, or the greatest, that's a bad choice of words. It is the largest stable coin going out there. So potentially a little bit of FUD there. I don't know if this is the right move for the EU, particularly the timing. Trump seems to be going all in. America will then probably be going all in on cryptocurrency. Is this going to be a case of the EU being left behind? We'll wait and see. But for any of you that are based in the EU and you're going to go on exchanges such as Coinbase, and I don't have a massive list of all of them, unfortunately. I did try and find a few, but it's slim pickings at the moment. I think we may have to wait till sort of close to the 31st when sort of we start seeing those tweets and those announcements of which ones are reducing it. But so if Coinbase are, you bet your bottom dollar that others are. And it's not just USDT. That's the big one, but there are other ones. It goes down here: DAI, PAX, PYUSD, GUSD, GUN. Of course, guess which one does make it through the thing, which is USDC. God, I was really struggling to think there. So that one is making it through, but something to just bear in mind. In Alan's portfolio's tripled since January. Feel like I've had a hell of a year, but if a hell of a year is not the goal, how do we not fuck up in 2025? Great question. I mean, stick to whatever your plan is. Don't get overconfident, over cocky. You know, the moment you start telling people how great you are, you know, random aunts and uncles that just don't really care anyway, you might need to start double checking yourself. But, you know, part of the beginning of 2025, if 2025 is going to be our bull run, then the part of the calls I think we need to have in the beginning of 2025 in the discussions is, what are we going to do? I mean, New Year's resolution number one has to be, I will take profit this bull run. Surely we've all got to write that one down, tattoo it on our arms if we have to. But, you know, all joking aside on that, you know, that is it. Like, if next year is going to be our year, if this is your second or your third cycle and you positioned yourself to really make some serious gains from it, then we've got to make sure that we don't get in our own way. We don't become our own worst enemy, and we start thinking about that. And you know my stance on having a plan in place, having some targets, start taking some stuff, and just have a point where you're satisfied with however much you've either taken to stables or all the way back, whatever you need to do. And then there's a little bit of a YOLO pot in case things go much further and higher and longer that you think it is. But I think next year we'll try and go into that in a lot more detail. I don't believe the market will be over in January of 2025. I think we've got some time within there. But you're right. Let me just go through some of these other questions just quickly, if I can find them. So Rowan and Julia, thank you for your 4 questions, I suppose. After I'll go through this as quick as I can, and then we'll get into where Bitcoin and everything else is sitting. So Rowan's gone in and said, I'm realigning my pot and I'm trying to buy Tau, but I can't buy it on Binance and my other exchange, even though everything I've read says it can be bought there. So does it have a different name, or what exchange do I need to buy it on? So that, Rowan, this is no dig, but this tells me you're relatively new, just because this is an interesting one with Binance. So this is, at the moment, just based for people in the UK that use Binance, but regulations and changes with how the FCA were regulating, operating, and sort of like, I don't know, keeping tabs on cryptocurrencies and exchanges that came in October of 2023. Basically, long story short, meant that any new token that is listed on Binance cannot be bought by a UK resident. Doesn't matter how legitimate it is, it doesn't matter how old it is, if it now gets a Binance listing, you can't buy it. And that will go on forever, no matter what it is, between now and until the FCA change their rules. So the rest of this bull market, all the way in the next bear market, and the bull market after that, any new token that gets listed on Binance for us in the UK has zero effect. I mean, we can try and capitalize on any price movement that will come from it, but we can't buy it from Binance. I don't know what your other exchange is, but that will be the reason why. Now, exchanges that currently don't operate with those rules that we as a community use quite often: Kraken, KuCoin, Mexi. If you don't have accounts set up with those, I would set up with actually all 3 of them, and I'd set up those as quick as you can, and then there is where you can go and head and buy it. And that sort of like takes me on to the second part. You have a trading account with BitMEX. You don't like it. I hated BitMEX. Having to trade, what was it, XBT or something. You had to sort of convert your Bitcoin into their sort of a perp version of Bitcoin, and the wicks were crazy. You don't like it, so are there any other platforms you would recommend? Well, I personally am starting to use KuCoin. I did use Bybit, but again, UK resident, can't use that anymore. So if you're not based in the UK and you have an opportunity to do it, Bybit's probably the place to do it. I use KuCoin. I know a lot of people in the community use Mexi. I don't, just because it's ball ache for tax purposes, but that's another thing. So it's not because I dislike the exchange or anything like that. Other ones, there's Blowfin, is it? Or that, I think that's a sort of a relatively new one that people have talked about, which again, if you're based in the US, I think you can utilize. But yeah, one of those I would recommend. And again, I know that KuCoin and Mexi have a plethora of trading pairs, so you shouldn't have any problems with finding whatever trades people go into. And they also do inverse perpetual trades as well, which if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it for now. We'll leave it there. Okay. Julia's asked two pretty interesting questions here, and unfortunately the first one is long, but I'm going to try and compress it. So Julia's asked, I've seen a couple of press articles on Cointelegraph and elsewhere, including by Jamie Dimon, that the 21 million limit on Bitcoin could be increased with the cooperation of miners. How concerned should we be that the concrete foundation on which we're all working from, a limited supply, might actually be foundations of sand, which would see the whole crypto universe potentially crumble to zero value? This is, honestly, this is a really complex question and an incredibly complex answer. And I'm not going to do it justice because I'm only going to give you 2 minutes, but I'm going to try and condense all of that within 2 minutes. So, yes, in theory, and well, it's not even in theory, in practice, the 21 million limit on Bitcoin can be changed, okay? And if you weren't aware of that, that is a fact. However, what you would need to do to sort of achieve that is far greater than just getting the miners on board. And even getting the miners on board would be difficult. Excuse me. When this was set up by Satoshi, or, the people working under the pseudonym of Satoshi, whatever, they set this limit, 21 million, and it has a scarcity equation that goes with it, which is all about halvings and everything else. And that kind of works out when the last Bitcoin will be mined, which in theory is 2140, okay? The comment that, the likes of Jamie Dimon and BlackRock have kind of they put a little asterisk on their advert about 21 million supply. And just getting 51% of the miners on board, and you could change by, is completely false. You don't just need the miners, and that's what's clear. The reason that people get that 51% of the miners on board, you can change the supply, is because that is what you require for a brute force attack on Bitcoin. So you've got to remember that, Bitcoin has nodes, and those nodes are verifying a ledger, okay? And basically what you're looking for is consensus that ledger is correct. And the idea behind, if you had over 51% of the nodes, then you could put out a false ledger and it could be verified and you can go. That's nothing to do with changing the supply. That is solely about cheating the ledger and effectively hacking or breaking Bitcoin's protocol. Now, to change the actual, supply, that requires, effectively changing the code of Bitcoin. So now we're not just talking about miners. We've got to actually bring on the core developers, okay? Then we've got to think about the miners. So the core developers would have to work and alter the code, and however they need to do that. Sorry, my screen's just gone a bit weird here. Sorry, it's my other screen, but just make sure everyone is still there. So so the developers would need to sort of propose and agree on the changing to the code and change that $21 million 21 million Bitcoin cap. The miners then, they would actually also need to buy in and support that, because they're ultimately going to be going out spending money to try and bring in those new Bitcoin that are effectively being created. But it doesn't stop there, because actually then we've got two other entities, and I think you could probably break it down to three. You got the nodes, which I was kind of talking about, and that sort of consensus and people verifying it each time that we've gone past 21 million, and they're still happy to keep on verifying that that's correct. And then we've got the users, because there's this thing called sort of an economic energy or economic majority, where if we as users now no longer see any value in it, the whole thing falls apart, because then the miners don't make any money from mining these new Bitcoins, and then the whole thing disappears. And users, everyday people like you and I, but also exchanges, because they're sort of the ones that are buying in bulk, if you will, to then release towards. So without that kind of majority and that consensus, you can never really get it on board. And then it takes it back to that sort of like social, I don't know, experiment, if you will, about this scarcity. And that's what all of us diehard Bitcoiners and maxis and people, they believe in, is the fact the reason we like this is because it's a finite supply. And as soon as we make it infinite, then we're no better than fiat currency. And so you've got to try and convince not just the developers, because you can, even if you get all of them on board, if you don't get half of the miners on board or most of the miners on board, it's going to fall apart. But even if you get all of the miners on board and all the developers on board, unless you get that buy-in from those who are going to verify it with the nodes, it's all going to fall apart. And even if you've got all three of those on board, if we as end users now no longer see any value in it, it's going to fall apart. And so that's why it, in my opinion, would be an absolute long shot. So the likes of Jamie Dimon just saying, oh yeah, if we get the miners on board, we can change it. It's not true. You've got to have all of those people on board to do it. Now, something like this kind of happened, even actually before I got involved in Bitcoin. I was sort of coming to the tail end when I got involved into cryptocurrency. In 2015, 2017, there was this thing called the block size wars, which effectively, Bitcoin block size is 1 megabyte, and that's quite slow. It doesn't hold as much data, and it was stalling the network. And we had effectively, you know, a whole range of people trying to support the idea to change the code to increase the block size from 1 megabyte to 20 megabyte. And long story short, there is a novel on it called The Block Size Wars. But they sort of like tried to petition and get everyone on board to create this code, but the maxis won out. They didn't see any point of that. And ultimately, not only did that change not happen, two other things came about from it. Firstly, Bitcoin Cash was created, not Bitcoin SV, which is Satoshi's vision by Craig Wright, Bitcoin Cash. So the hard fork was Bitcoin Cash, which then increased the block size, and those who wanted it, they had it, but it wasn't Bitcoin. It was something other than Bitcoin, so an altcoin. But also, what it actually spurred on was development of layer 2s and the Lightning Network to try and overcome this problem whilst also maintaining the integrity of the idea of Bitcoin. And so that kind of goes back to that first question. I said it'd be 2 minutes and it isn't, I apologize. Of if they did change it, let's say they changed it to 25 million, you know, the moment that first Bitcoin after 21 million is mined, it's completely invalidated. It effectively, in my mind, it's not technically a hard fork, but it's not in the original alignment. So you're just going to have that thing where nobody has any interest in whatever comes up. Well, I say nobody. Pure maxis will not have that kind of interest in where it is. And so it's just an altcoin. It's not what Bitcoin is. And so that's why my long view of why I think that will never happen. Julia, I hope that helped. It is quite complicated, so I'm sorry if I messed some of that up there. Let me try and sort these screens out. There we go, a little bit back. The final question was just about El Salvador. And yeah, some news came out this week about El Salvador. Oh no, sorry. I've got one more slide just to show you. And this is just to put into context. Going back to Julia's first question. And it's this, and this is relatively recent. So this is Bitcoin's distribution, the 21 million tokens. Okay? So, look at, I mean, we've got 6.6 million that's not yet been mined. We've got Satoshi's wallet, which is 5.2%. Sorry, these are percents. We've got the miners currently hold approximately 3.4%. We've lost almost 17.6%. Now that is like a genuine, how did we get to that figure? And a report came out, don't know why the screen's taking so long. So by Unchained Capital last year, they kind of suggested up to 3.8 million Bitcoins have been lost since its inception, which is around about 18%. So that's kind of where this figure comes from. But the point I'm trying to get at is there's already 28%, 29% nearly, let's just call it 30, that we can't really deal with because it's either not being mined, it's in Satoshi's wallet and he ain't going to be changing his vision, or she, or we've lost it and no one has access to that Bitcoin. So that's gone. But then look at the rest, you know, governments 2.7, ETFs 3.9, companies, including MicroStrategy, I should add, 3.6. MicroStrategy is about 2% of that 3.6. And so the vast majority of all Bitcoin out there are owned by individuals in varying sizes, of course, but individuals. So when you talk about trying to take over the whole network, it's not just as easy as, oh yeah, MicroStrategy or BlackRock, whoever, just buy up the remaining supply. No, the majority of the supply is already within the individuals. I'm sure they can take some, but the point of the matter is that they're not going to take it all. They're not going to be able to take all of that 6.6, and they can't do anything with the other 23% that's either lost or in Satoshi's wallet. So to get that 50% is actually quite a difficult be taken. And I appreciate that BlackRock have their mitts in governments and ETFs and companies and miners, but ultimately, as long as the individuals stay true to it, it's going to be quite a difficult element to overcome. Right, that's the last bit of that slide. El Salvador, yes, so some news came out earlier this week about El Salvador taking a loan off the IMF, which, you know, there's those Bitcoin maxis that are huge fans of what's happening in El Salvador, making it legal tender, a legal currency and tender and all of that, to then go crawling to the devil themselves to ask for money. It just didn't sit right. And you know, the problem you've got there is if you're going to go to your enemy and ask for something, what are they going to do? They're going to make you pay. And how are they going to make you pay? Well, this is a no-brainer for them. They're going to go, right, well, if you want some money off us, we want you to, you know, put some limitations on your Bitcoin activity. Because right now, you're not following in logger steps with what the message we want to promote. And a lot of people are looking to you and actually thinking that's actually quite a good idea. So yes, they did need 1.4 billion. I don't know what they needed it for, but the reality is they obviously needed some money. And unfortunately, they've had to make some concessions for that money to be loaned to them. But it's not actually as bad as what you think. They have been told that they, you know, whereas before they had like a wallet that the public could use and that all vendors had to accept Bitcoin as legal currency. So, you know, if someone came in to buy a pair of shoes, you had to accept if they wanted to take Bitcoin. That now has become voluntary. So these private merchants don't have to accept Bitcoin. They can if they still want to, but they don't have to. So they're going to get rid of this wallet that they created. And that's kind of about it that I've seen in this. I'm just trying to see if I'm on the right one here. I think it's this next one. But you go into this article here, which then the very next day, you know, after being told by the IMF to curb your Bitcoin enthusiasm, what did they do? They announced that they've gone and bought 10 or 11. They spent $1 million on BTC, which kind of like Julia says, well, what's going on here? Because at one stage we're going in logger step now with the IMF and we're going to reduce our eye on the prize with Bitcoin. And the next one, you're just immediately going to go and buy some more Bitcoin. But actually the country's chief Bitcoin governmental officer, Stacey Herbert, kind of said, look, yeah, we got our funding deal, but within it, we've not made too many concessions. Bitcoin still remains a legal tender. El Salvador will still continue to buy Bitcoin, and they're allowed to by the IMF, so they can still add to their strategic reserve. Bitcoin's capital markets will continue to be built. So recent tokenization of the US Treasury on liquid, okay, you know that. The Bitcoin office, which is what she's head of, will continue to develop these Bitcoin policies and roadmaps and get sort of, investment and attraction from sort of outside of the country. It's still going to be taught in schools. Bitcoin and Node Nation continue to be taught in high schools across there. There's educating elite Bitcoin and Lightning dev talents to El Salvador, so trying to bring people in. You can get it. So, okay, they made those. But it seems to me that actually, for 1.4 billion, they've not had to give up too much. And I think the last part of your question was, you know, the next day they bought 10, but when their original investment plan was to buy 1 BTC per day, it is. And you think, well, you know, what difference you making there? But just bear in mind, and I don't have the charts, so you have to believe me, unless it's in here. It might be, yeah. El Salvador have 5,980 BTC. When did they start buying BTC? The 7th of September, 2021. So in 3 years or 1,000 days, 1,100, let's call it, they've still bought nearly 6,000. So they're on average buying nearly 5 to 6 Bitcoin a day, and they haven't really slowed down on that. So it doesn't mean they're literally buying one every day, but they're trying to just make sure they track above 1 per BTC. That's still part of their plan. Good luck to them. I hope it continues. Hey, take that 1.4 billion and put it in the Bitcoin market. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I hope that answers the question. Okay. Was there anything else? That was me just checking if there's anything else with it, but no. Okay, good. Right, Bitcoin's price. So here we are. And as I said, this is 12-hour chart, standard chart. You've seen it many times before. And what did we have last week? You know, last Tuesday, we were actually, it was an all-time high. pretty much around when we had that call. So crazy to think that since the all-time high, we've had that huge correction. But just look at where we are. We came back into this liquidity zone. Okay, we've just missed out on the 0.2, or not the point, the 2.0 of the fib level, but near as damn hit it. And then what we've done, this 2-year-long trend line, we've come back, we've broken through it, we've koboed off it, we've crashed back down, we've taken out that liquidity level between 96 and 99, and now what we're doing, we're struggling to hold the 1.618 level at 94,000. And yeah, this trend line, as in my opinion, has worked a treat once again. You know, it's just shown how strong it can be. Now, sharp move down, potential double bottom may be forming here at the moment. Time's going to have to tell on that one. And we'll see whether or not we're going to have some sharp reversal on the way back up. Let's just move on to this chart here. So this again is a linear chart, long-term one. And it caught my eye. Someone posted it on Twitter, and I couldn't help but look at it, because you line up the 4 tops from the 3 last cycles, and it looks like we just maybe hit a top there. Do I think that's necessarily the case? Potentially not. But should I show you it just in case it is? Yeah, I think we should. You know, we've always got to be at least lining these things up. And look, this is a weekly chart. I've not zoomed in very well. I'm sure we could get it a little bit cleaner. But the reality is, had we have extended this line, it's gone and kissed off it straight away. Now, you know, whether or not you're one of these people that, you know, believes in patterns and high frequency trading bots just trying to find that, someone may have drawn this line and gone, right, as soon as it hits down, I'm going to take some profit. It seems like a logical place, and off it's gone back down. Now, when this had happened, you know, in the 2 top approach, what did we have? We had wick to bottom, what? A 56% correction from that first 64,000 down to where it bottomed out. Sorry, it's 65, let's call it 30K. You know, what have we had at the moment? Let me just, at the moment, we've actually only had a 15% correction. We want to see a 55% correction. Jesus. I mean, we're looking sub 50K, you know? That's what we saw. I don't know why I'm pointing at the charts, if you can see. But that is what we saw from that April correction. That's how bad it felt, is we would feel it going down to sub 50K. That's going to feel pretty bad. So, yeah, there's you know, something to be said that we've had a 15% correction. Those kind of things happen all the time in bull markets. And, you know, it doesn't feel great when it happens. When we're going to be really worried is if we start seeing, well, trust me, I'm going to be worried way before we get sub 50K. In fact, when we look at this, and now we'll start breaking it down onto lower time frames, but let's start on the weekly. Why on the weekly? Because on the weekly, it, you know, when we look at bull markets on the weekly, what are we interested in? 10 and the 20, of course, and the 50's catching us, okay? So what's actually happened on the weekly? We've just got we haven't even got back to the 10 yet. How often on bull runs, I don't know what I'm doing here, do we get away from the 50, come back? You know, that's not a bull run, this one is. Get away from the 50, pull back, get away from the 50, pull back, get away from the 50, pull back. It happens all the time. So all we've done is had such a run up since the beginning of November. We've got away from not the 50, the 10, sorry. We've got to pull back. Where's the 10 currently sitting at the moment? Around about 90K. Okay, so these are some of the levels we talked about yesterday, last week even. Jesus, what's up with me? So really, just big picture, always looking at 90K, easy round numbers, 80K, and then what's this one at the moment? 67. Now, obviously, as weeks go by, these are going to get slightly higher. But they're what we're looking at to see, okay, where do we break? What's the absolute worst thing for us to happen? We lose the 50, we're kind of out on the weekly, we're kind of out of a bull market, okay? So, you know, that 70K level, that's something we've really got to watch. And that is, by the time we get there, maybe it's 72, 73, but this is sort of, you know, this price action in and around here, certainly the top side of it, I think is somewhere we need to make sure we're not sitting in, we're not comfortable around there. Maybe, you know, God forbid we wick down to it, but if we ever do hit it, we have a strong bounce off it, or we never close below it, we'll build some support and away we go. So there we are on the weekly. Let's start having a look at some of these other levels now. So daily, I mean, again, what have we hit just now, right? So again, we've lost it. We've lost the 10, we've lost the 20, but we've come back to the 50. We've not hit the 50 since the middle of October. So we finally gone back and hit it. Generally, on the daily, we find this as an area to bounce, and it kind of makes sense. What I'd see, you know, I mean, it's not even, this is not even a vector candle. There's no vectors down here. The closest vector zone we've got at the moment is 85. I mean, let's go down to the 12, see if we can see any. Not even. So we've cleared out all any remaining vectors. Let's get back on the daily. We've got one down at 85, but we've got this 50 in front of us at the moment. So I really want to see how we're going to be dealing with price action over the next couple of days. Is this going to hold? Last time we hit this, strong bounce from it. It didn't help us, but we had a strong bounce from it. That's what we need to see now. But that strong bounce, we can't run into the 20 and the 10 and then reject from it. We've got to break through. These two are crossing over as well at the moment. So we're going to need some sort of strong bounce from that, which we know Santa Rallies can provide. And Santa Rally is the week leading up to, or the week of Christmas and a few weeks afterwards. Well, we're in that week of Christmas now. We've got a few weeks afterwards, because you got to remember that the big boys from the traditional markets have all shut up shop for Christmas. So trading's relatively light. So we can expect with cryptocurrency, I'm sure there will be some institutions that are working over Christmas, but we can expect some volatility because trading is going to be light. Okay, so market makers looking to just try and take out retail a little bit easier with some strong moves. So don't be so nervous to move in or out on things. You know, let things play out a little bit, see where they ultimately go. We take it down. We've had a look at the 12, but let's quickly on to the 4. And you know, I was kind of hoping, it shows better on the hourly, but some sort of, you know, double pattern formation. But at the time, it was sort of here. And I thought, right, we're breaking through, but what have we done? I don't know what's wrong with my mouse these days. We were coming up these ones here, and we've just hit the 200 and effectively the 20 at the same time. And look at that strong candle down this lunchtime. And then we just haven't really been able to recover from it. But we are just down at levels we were at before. So not necessarily something to worry about right now. Again, for me, I'd probably be looking, I mean, if we're going to take the wicks, that one at 90, 97, we do have this tiny bit of blue vector now that we're getting down onto the lower ones. So what's that? 88. And then we've got 85 right smack in the middle of the vector recovery, which we had seen from the daily anyway. So we've got all of those. What I don't like from the upside, if I'm perfectly honest, is we are below everything except the 800. So, you know, these are all forming the 50, the 20, and the 10. Not only are they trending down, they're spread out nicely now, which we don't like to see. The 200, and it's going to have some sort of meeting with the 50 in, I don't know, about a week and a half's time. Oh no, it's the 4 hour, in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. So, you know, we want to see some sort of recovery before that happens. Otherwise, it's just another hurdle once we get through on that. In terms of fibs, I mean, there's no point me drawing one from top to bottom, because basically we're at that level now. You know, I mean, what we can see from it, again, it's why I love them so much. Let's get rid of that yellow line. Oh, did not want to do that. Why can't I find this? There we go. It's come down. We've come back up, you know, the 382, then the 5, come back down, 382 and the 236, and then recent action has just been bouncing off these levels, 236. Now we're back where we originally started. So definitely got some work to do there in terms of where that can take us. We don't hold this level, you know, we've got to suggest that the 90k is going to be retested. It's just such an important level on so many other time frames, whether it be daily and that. And going on to the hour, let's get rid of fib now. I mean, what have we got? I don't know why my mouse is like potentially some sort of M formation. Day 1 pullback, 2 pullback. Is this drop 3 potentially? I mean, it's still got to break below that. I'd want to see it. You know, all it has to do is get down to 90. then form some sort of W and potentially where we go. But there is probably just, one major drop left. I was hoping that we could have counted this one as the first drop, 2 and then 3 into that W formation. But today's price action really hasn't shown that that's the case. And we are, on the hourly now, pretty much on the same levels that we got to. But that being said, maybe it's just a wide W. Now I'm looking at it. That's the M. 1, 2, 3. And then this is the other part of the W before we go up. Hey, I like hopium as much as the next person. So maybe that's something we can have a look at there. In terms of fear and greed, I mean, we're only at 70 on the alternative.me, but interestingly and it feels like we should be lower than that. 70 feels quite high. Yesterday was 73, so we've only just tipping out of extreme greed. But you go on CoinMarketCap, and we're actually down at 54, much more cooler area where we kind of want to see. Now, they say they use very similar metrics, but obviously they're not exactly the same. So how there's such a difference, I'm not necessarily sure. I know that the CoinMarketCap fear and greed kind of updates. I think it's like twice an hour, whereas the other one I'm looking at is only once a day. So maybe this is just taking in today's fall as well, and we'll actually see a more accurate figure in a few hours' time on this one. We'll wait and see where we are there. In terms of the canary in the coal mine, you know what? Actually, funnily enough, Friday we did see a BlackRock sale, 72 million. So I don't know, round about 250, 300 Bitcoin, which a few others sold. Not much was bought today. We don't have it fully printed, but it does look like BlackRock even has done another sale of a similar amount. So I don't know, 800 BTC, probably getting around about 80 million from that, just under. So it's not alarming levels. There is some sales that are happening, whether people are just cashing in so they can go and boast about it at the Christmas dinner or what, I don't know. But I don't know how much this is going to update tomorrow, for example, or Boxing Day or whatever isn't a bank holiday over in America. We just have to play that one by ear as we go through. But I don't think there's any huge sales that we necessarily need to worry about. And the reality is they still hold over 550,000 BTC. So, they're not missing around really, are they? Okay, let's have a look at some others. And Tau, since we've been on this call, actually woken up a little bit. So good on it. What am I on here? The weekly. Okay. I mean, if we give it the same sort of rundown as we did with BTC there, it's come down, it's hit the 50 last week. It's bounced off it. I'm not really too enamored about what we're seeing right now. But that being said, you got to start somewhere on these steps up. And we're at 75 today. So as we speak right now, we go down to the daily. We kind of see, all right, yep. And we're just dipping our head because we talked and we lost the 50. We'd lost the 10 and the 20 as well. And then we were, since our last call, we've actually been meandering in and around that 200. Right now, we've broken above it, but still 4 hours to go. Don't know where that's really leading us on the daily. And I got to say that 500 level is an area that I'm identifying. The cards on the table, I've sold all of my Tau. All of it. I sold it on Saturday. I think I got out at about 493 or something like that. So seeing this move up just now, just got to wait and see. I'm kind of just, I wasn't really liking how the altcoin market in general was going. Today's obviously been a better day, but I really just want to see how things play out. I'll be more than happy to just jump in now if I needed to. So it was just can I squeeze an extra few Tau that I missed out on the last sidestep I tried to take, and if I can recover some of those, then perfect. The point I made from the last call was selling into another asset, which is still something that I'm considering. I mean, ultimately, Tau BTC, actually, look at that. If I do this on the hourly, earlier on today when I was looking at it, it was nicely in the fours, but actually now we've seen that it's actually managed to climb out and it's recovering fairly well. But beforehand, it was still looking like BTC was probably a a better play to have a look at. So as I said last week, I'm not necessarily because I dislike Tau or falling out of it. I'm just trying to be a bit brave and not mess up like Alan's potentially suggested by 2025. So I've got to be cautious, but also at the same time brave. And that's how I'm trying to play this. And if it gets to my buy back in, I'll just buy back in regardless, you know. Hey, it happened. But let's get back to Tau on similar things. I'm kind of doing this one a little bit blind. Now we're on the 1 hour there. Let's go 4 hour first. So Tau, I mean, you know, we can see there's definitely been some drops here. 1 hour might be better. Okay. Yeah. Whether you want that to be the M or not, drop one. I mean, I'm thinking kind of drop two really there, but come on, let's see if we can find a better drop. It does feel like we may. What is wrong with this? There we go. Sorry. I was thinking maybe there's a W. If this one gets above 510, then you got to suggest that we are actually climbing out of this, and that's the W there. It's not a double bottom because you can see how sharp this one came down, but that V reversal came up, and you know, honestly, why I was looking at this was to get out was the V reversal was bought up. It must have been on the maybe it was on the 12 or the daily. I don't know if it was on the daily. I don't think it would have been because I don't really trade on that. Here we go. Yeah, thank you. See it in the end. So we had this come up and then it's hit the 800 and it's just rejected from it. And it was just, I'm just going to get out. It hasn't really done much over the weekend, to be fair. And that sort of 440 level has held. And now we are starting to see it build. But again, you know, where I got out, we got the 200 and the 50. So this is what I'm saying about, you know, I'm not going to necessarily just knee jerk straight back in because we've got some pretty strong levels that may be standing in our way there. And then on top of that, what have we got? It's a little bit higher. It's 504 for the fib level. You can kind of see how much it's stuck to this one. It has finally broken it. So yeah, anywhere between that sort of like 490 to, I don't know, 510, let's call it. I want to just sort of wait and see where that happens. Hey, I may end up losing a couple from it, but I'm just going to wait right now. You know, it's good to see. Honestly, these are the kind of things you want to see. Nice sort of high single figure days from this, but as I'm going to show you with some of the other ones, we're still in lower lows and lower highs on this trend from the beginning of the month. So Tau's not really showing that we're guaranteed to have turned this around at the moment. And I'm going to be more than happy to be wrong and get back in. But generally what we see is we get close to that 50 EMA on the 4 hour and we come crashing back down. So that's where we will wait to have a look on that one. I mean, again, we've you know, neared strong run up and then it's just lower high and lower lows on the way back down. Potentially it's coming close to this 50, but we've got the 200. It's kind of a very similar pattern to what we saw on Tau just then. Ethereum, definitely an interesting one with Ethereum because it never took its all-time high. So it had that move up, strong move up, woke up. But this one, I mean, you know, this one really does look like a double top because it never got past that, whereas others have made it. That really does feel like we got the double top. That was the neckline there. And then, you know, that move down, you could argue, has completed it, but it's come back up to the neckline, koboed. It's fallen away a bit, and at the moment, are we just on a little bit of a relief rally before it goes? Now, the 800 saved it, and that's why I have all of these ones on. Tau, you know, and the daily's not been around long enough, 12 hour, probably not around long enough for the 800 to form, but things like Ethereum, you can see that one on the daily, and you've got the 800 there. You can see, you know, even when it loses that, this is where it's come back to. But yeah, you know, for best part of a week, just been going down, and we you know, we can see the EMAs have spread out quite nicely again. The 200 is actually above the 50 as well, so these ones are really spreading out, suggesting might be there. And if you're one of those people that do believe that you know, Ethereum is the leading indicator for the altcoin market, it's certainly not showing it this cycle to be right now, but it's there. But also have a look, you know, previous price action came down, and it just ran into that there, and it found the ability to bounce. And again, that sharp V recovery failed, just like Tau's did. and now we're seeing today potentially a move up. So something to watch out for there. CAS, another one we've discussed, just not sure why it's not having the love that we saw from 6 months ago, but it can't even make its way back to the 50, and it's already fallen. And this is in arguably an even worse state. 10, the 20, the 50, the 200, and now the 800, all in inverse order. It's got to get through all of that before it even gets back to the sort of the price action in and around here that we saw in November, and that sort of chunk. And that, is a fairly decent amount of candles there, which in itself could just lead to moving that price back down for a second attempt. Link, I was going to talk about giving up a lot of its gains, but today it's moved. But this one's on the 50, so this could be, leading indicator in terms of legacy token making its move. It's already reached its 50. Can it break through it? It's 10% gain today, outstripping most of the ones that I track, except for memes. On those one that's, real world asset, BlackRock ETF, it had another good move up like everything else did, earlier. Well, Donald Trump onwards from sort of 62, got up to, $2. It's come back down. But again, 200, like so many others, has caught it. So I am, I'm happy with what's happening today. But like a lot of things, it's got to just do more. Most of these altcoins are going to have to do more to get it over where it needs to be. I am, it's promising that Tau keeps on moving. But until I see how it interacts with this one here, then, or the 50 EMA at sort of 490, and I'm just going to wait with that one. Sol, let's just get rid of this. I mean, interestingly, Sol, it came down, look, to this, this didn't recover this 50% vector candle. It got right down onto it before it bounced. It's come back, retested it again, and it sort of held off. But this just feels like a relief rally from all the falling for now. I want to see, not just on Sol, but on all, if this is going to be where we need a bounce. If we can't re-reversal out of it, we need to build some structure and some consolidation. Spit your words out there. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking at. And with Sol, I mean, this could be ugly to look at because I can't really find it. Just put it on the daily. So much on some. I apologize. Sometimes even I find these charts quite difficult to look at because there's so much information on it. And that's not what was supposed to happen. Yeah, let's get rid of those squiggles. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's either my hand or the mouse. So again, oh, Jesus. Tell you, you can tell it's nearly Christmas. There we go. So good move up, but on the move down, we basically made a 50% recovery because we're at the 0.5. That sort of coincided with the 200 EMA and Sol, and it's a bounce. And for me, this cycle Sol's more of the indicator. This cycle, sorry, I was just reading Alan's question, than Ethereum, because it just had such a better movement for the altcoin. So maybe it's just that 50% pullback and away we go. Only this is on the daily, still got a few things to get out of its way, but this one's fallen a decent amount, and I think if this one is going to go back to performing, is this one that we actually could see? But anyway, so let's just see Alan's book. Can you take a look at the Tau chart I just threw in Discord Avengers channel? Let's have a look. Let's put that over there. I'm gonna have to throw it on there. Oh, what did I just do? Sorry, my mouse is, the sensitivity's all wrong. Well, it's a bit small. Right, okay, I think I've seen what you've done. Let me just draw that on mine. Tau. Let's get it on a clean chart, shall we? Nope. That's not. What do you reckon it was? 4 hour probably you did it on? Yeah, it looks like it. It was something like this. Yeah. So moved quite nicely through that. So what for me, what I want to see, if it's just solely based on this one, is break of that. Like how I like to see trend reversals. So, we've got that potential bottom low in, then that first higher high, then we've got another low here. This one needs to break above that, and then I think we're off to the races. So, yeah, I think that is potentially on its way through. Just got to see how it sort of pans out. But wouldn't it be great, sort of, we've gone through the hardship, but then we actually do see that genuine sort of Santa rally and things start to move through. I know certainly it's going to make my Christmas period a lot more fun, that's for sure. It means I don't have to stare at the chart so often. Some of the other ones, I know Sui, I'm not sure where we currently stand with this. A bit of a hokey cokey, I suppose, in and out. But this one's still actually, despite all the other ones, this one's looking good. It's had that retest of the 50. It's been flirting in around the 10 and the 20, but actually today's move may well just sort of see it go up. And it's not far off a new high. What is it? Just under 5? Yeah, 498. And earlier on today, we got down as low as 409. So it's already had a strong move from that one. So fairly good. BTC dominance. That's the one I wanted to sort of have a look at. I think I drew it on a clean chart, actually. If I can just remember which one. Not that one. Not that one. Okay, I don't know where I put it. Let's just draw it from fresh then. Where the hell did I put it? Sorry, it's got to be somewhere. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Because I was just trying to find where we have a look at, and I was looking at support and resistance, Bitcoin dominance. It's hard to. And this is what I'm looking at. So this goes back to pretty much the start of Bitcoin waking up at bottom of the bear market, 2022, beginning of 2022. No, it was end of 2022, wasn't it? Apologies there. But we can kind of see it's moved up from here, it's come back down, kissed it, and then it's held it all this time, and then we broke it, recovered it, and then right now, as we stand, it's sitting on this line. I think this is a really important moment for how the next few weeks are going to go, in sense of, are we going to see just a general recovery? And by that, we want to see Bitcoin price go up, Bitcoin's dominance go up, but also total market cap go up. Okay, so that's just a general recovery. Are we going to see total market cap go up, but this Bitcoin dominance chart break the line, which ultimately means that we're going to see some sort of alt season, which could well happen. And then the other thing is just, this kind of stays similar, and then the other two end up going down. But right now where it sits, it's either, I've drawn this poorly and this isn't a Kobo, but for me, we lost it, it's recovered. Right now, what are you doing, Bitcoin dominance? Are you going to make a stand for Bitcoin because this is your Kobo chance and we should be going off to the races? Or are we looking at a potential breakthrough and a bit of an alt season? So on the 3-day, which will be on then, kind of on, this is the 50, the blues are the 50. And then on the daily, I mean, it's intertwining a little bit here. So the 50 and the 20 are right on top of each other, but they're all on that trend line in that area there. So yeah, pretty important element to be in right now. Anything else really? I don't think so. I'm conscious it's 9 o'clock. It's 2 days before Christmas. I think we can probably leave it at that. I mean, just to show you the charts, the pots, they have changed. Just the USDT is obviously where Tau was. The reality is that I'm only maybe $10 away from having to get back in at break even, or wait a little bit in there and getting a bit over, a bit less back. But that's sometimes what happens with the trading of it. Let's just put it to full screen. I think I'm going to call it on the head there, because we've still got Bitcoin down. It's still dropping. It's still minus 2% at the moment, but we've seen a really good recovery from altcoins today, which is nice. And it's happened on an Avenger call, which, hey, we like those kind of things. What whether or not I go live next week, again, I'm just gonna wait to see how the week turns out. But you know, if you are out of the market and you're looking to get in, you know, just see how Bitcoin dominance does today with that line. Maybe you can find yourself some things. But if Bitcoin dominance breaks and altcoins are going to continue up, then you just need to bear in mind that you want to be getting in quick before these things move again. Other than that, hope you all have a good Christmas. I don't know if there's a call on Boxing Day at the moment, but I'll be checking out as well. So hopefully we'll jump on there. As I say, if I do at all go live next week, it will be next Monday, given that it's New Year's Eve on the Tuesday. And then the week after that, we'll get back to our usual time slot on Tuesday evenings. If you've got any questions between now and then, I'm obviously going to be around. I'm more than happy to sort of answer any DMs or anything else you may have, run through it. I don't have the camera on, but I did receive Simon's book. I did receive Simon's book today. Last couple of days ago, just started reading it. So I will go through that over the holidays. No book quiz, I promise you, next call. But yeah, thanks everyone. Next week, if I do it, I think we might do a little bit of a review of the year, because I think we've achieved so much this year. I think sometimes we can't see the wood through the trees. I think it'd be worthwhile taking stock on some of that. Enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your week, have some fun, wind down, try not to spend too much time in the charts, all of that. Next year's the one we really need to be laser focused. So get some well-deserved rest in now, and we'll tackle 2025 together. Speak to you all soon. Cheers now.